Well, good. I'm glad. My name is Drew. Normally, I'm at the Kathleen campus, and so I got a chance to come out here and be with you guys. Now, I'm known on our staff as kind of being the prankster. And so when this time of year comes around, if I say something kind of out of the blue with April coming up, people tend not to believe me, give me a side eye like, I don't know if I believe that. But I'm going to tell you one thing that's coming up in about a month from now in April. I'm going to be riding a bull at the PBR, at the Georgia National Fairgrounds. They came to us and they're like, we want to do a big fundraiser for the church and we want you to be involved. Well, actually they asked the pastors, we need a pastor to be involved, and every one of the pastors like, not it, and they all pointed at me. So I'm the one that's going to be riding a bull. It is real, it is true, it's not an April Fool's joke. I would love for you guys to come and cheer me on. People are like, you're going to ride 8 seconds? I'm like, man, I just hope I make it a second on there. I don't know. Everybody keeps trying to scare me with it, but I would love for you guys to be here, but that's what I'll be doing. But it's kind of prophetic that I'm speaking to you today on the sermon title here, because I just want to tell you how much we appreciate you as an organization, Southside, and what you're doing here in Hawkinsville. I remember when they came to us. You know, we were talking with Lance a little bit, and he had this dream that God wanted to plant a church out here. And, you know, the first thing I said, Hawkinsville, where's that? You know, I knew the golf course. I knew the steakhouse, of course, those type of things. So I'm like, wow, maybe we can do something out there. And, man, you guys have blown it up out here. Thank you so much for what you're doing, the difference you're making here. And it blends right into my sermon today. So we've been in this sermon series called Let's Go. And it's not the let's go that I have 5 kids where I'm screaming at them, let's go, we're going to be late, you know, that type of let's go. No, this is a let's go, inspirational, like a coach. Come on, let's go. We're about to go out there and do some amazing things. And so we started out with week 1. You had Jesus. He's leaving the earth and he's telling his disciples, now listen, it's time for you to go without me. Go make disciples. Go baptize them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. You guys killed it last weekend. You had 10 baptisms last weekend. That was amazing. I know it was really hot in here, so maybe some of them were just like, I want to get in the pool. I'm just hot. I don't know, maybe that was it. But you had all these baptisms and you're doing exactly what Jesus instructed us to do as he was leaving the earth. Last week we talked about a guy named Philip, and God told him, go way out, like go out to Hawkinsville, somewhere where there's not a lot of people, and just go there, and I'm going to show you somebody. And then he got next to this Ethiopian guy, and he says, hey, he's reading a scroll written from the prophet Isaiah, and he had written about the prophecy of Jesus to come. So he'd been writing that, and he said, hey, do you understand what you're reading? He goes, no, I don't. You guys ever feel that way reading the Bible? Yeah. So he says, no, I have no idea. And he said, let me tell you, that prophecy was fulfilled in Jesus, and that guy got saved right there. He baptized him in peace. Philip was gone. He just disappeared. I don't know how all that works, but I love reading these supernatural stories from the Bible. I want to be those people. I want to be David, you know, when he's standing in front of a 9-foot giant and everybody's scared to death, and he's this little teenage boy, and he's like, I got this rock and I'm going to knock him down, and he does it. You know, I want to be like Peter when everybody's come rushing after him to take Jesus. He's like, all right, it's time to throw down, and he's swinging that sword, and he's not going to let anybody touch Jesus. I want to have that kind of courage. Or Moses, I really do like when the Egyptians are chasing the Israelites to drag them back to slavery. And so God supernaturally parts the seas through Moses, and they run across on dry ground. And I imagine Moses is doing one of these as the Egyptians are coming to drag him back. He's like, come on. Whack, kills them all, Pharaoh included. You know, we want to be those guys. And, you know, as a pastor, Lance and I get a chance to get away as a staff to go see some amazing speakers. You know, we see guys like Craig Rochelle and Francis Chan, and I love this guy out of Las Vegas named Judd Wilhite, and we'll listen to these different speakers, and they're in front of tens of thousands of people, and they're just, everything they're saying, I'm like, this is great. I'm writing it all down. I'm like, I want to communicate like that. I want to be in front of people like that. I want to be able to have those type of influence. I want to be able to stand in front of people like Billy Graham and just capture their attention and deliver them to who God is and teach them about how much Jesus loves them. And I think to myself, why can't I do that? And, you know, I think this started when I was a kid. I used to always look up, especially to athletes. And there was this ad campaign when I was a kid. And it was a beverage company. It was named Gatorade. And so what Gatorade says is they were saying this. They started this campaign. Be like Mike. Drink Gatorade. Okay? And so their profits went up 15% when they did this campaign. And what did I do? I was sucking down Gatorade, baby. I want to be like Mike. I bought his shoes. I wore his clothes. I even stuck my tongue out when I went up to shoot a layup. I wanted to be like Mike. And it didn't matter how much Gatorade I drank. Was I going to be like Mike? No, I wasn't ever going to be like Mike. But, we get into that kind of thing. I mean, I even remember the commercial. Sometimes I dream that he is me. That's who I want to be, like Mike. If I could be like, I want to be like Mike. I just remember the commercial. That I never could get to be like Mike. But so many times we want to be other people, don't we? We see their life and I want to be them. We see the success they have. I want to be like them. And I want to encourage you today that God has a unique plan for your life. And it isn't to drink Gatorade and be like Mike. He's created you for a purpose. And you might look at it as being insignificant, but in God's kingdom, it's not insignificant. You don't have to lead tens of thousands of people to Jesus. You don't have to change the world if you just change little things in your life and you impact people in your community, in your circle of influence. And so that's the important thing. God created us not to be like other human beings, but to be like Jesus. And again, there's nothing wrong with looking at what other people do, the great things they do, and say, I want to mimic them, I want to be like them, I want to work hard like them. There's nothing wrong with that. But ultimately, what our goal is to be more like Jesus. So today we're going to be in Romans 1. We're going to read a letter that this guy named Paul, he wrote to a church in Rome. And Paul, he was actually living the life that Jesus called us to live. And not a perfect life, not this superstar life. It wasn't a great life. It was a hard life. But he was ready to say to this church, let's go. And that's where we're going to be today. So let's start out. Let me give you just a little bit of background because I'm sure there are a few in here like, Paul, who's that Paul guy? All right. Well, Paul wrote most of the books of the Bible. He wrote 13 books in the New Testament. And what Paul did is he was a great missionary. He would go from city to city to city, and he would tell people about Jesus. People would get saved. He would start recognizing who the leadership should be. He would start building them up, discipling them, teaching them how to do church and how to evangelize, how to tell the world about Jesus, or at least tell their city about Jesus. And then he would, I'm out. I'm going to go start it somewhere else. Now, he wouldn't just abandon them entirely. He would try to keep tabs with them. He would write them letters. Sometimes he would write them letters that were good letters, like, hey, you guys are killing it. You're doing a great job, awesome job. I'm hearing about the great things you're doing. Other times, he was like that father, like, don't make me come back there, because if I got to come back there, it's going to be trouble. He'd say, stop it, cut it out. You're doing the wrong things. You know better than this. I taught you better than this. And so he'd write those letters. And the cool thing about it is that even today, as an organization, as 5 campuses, we structure our churches based on what God told Paul and how he wrote to these churches, and that's how we structure our churches today. Just like what he, by the letters he wrote, we do a lot of the same things that he instructed the churches back then to do 2,000 years ago. And it would be easy for us to say, hey, man, I wish I was like Paul. Man, look what he did. But the fact of the matter is with Paul, he was kind of a bad dude. He wasn't a very good guy at the beginning of his life. He was that guy that he wanted to wipe the name of Jesus off the face of the earth. He would chase down Christians. He would abuse them. He would persecute them. He would throw them into prison. Sometimes he would have them executed. He was one of those guys, and he had this miraculous moment where he met Jesus on the road. And Jesus was like, man, what are you doing? Why are you doing this to me? And Paul immediately went, holy moly, he is really God in the flesh. This is true. And at that point forward, he was like, I'm dedicating my life to you. But he never got to the point where he thought he was better than everybody else. He never got to the point where he's like, he told people that, he would tell people to be like me, but as I'm like Jesus, only when I do the things of Jesus is that when you're to act like me. But he said, I was the chief of sinners. I'm not that great of a guy. But I want to tell you who is a great guy. And he introduced many people to Jesus. And it's inspiring because it kind of tells us here, no matter what your background is, I don't know what mistakes you've made, what things that you're absolutely embarrassed about. See, God still wanted to use him. And God still wants to use you. He's got a plan for your life that will blow you out of the water, things that you can't imagine being able to do, even with all the handicaps you have in your life, the mistakes you've made, the things you're like, I'm not that smart, I can't speak that well. He's got a plan for your life, and he can use you, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Now, he wrote this letter to a church in Rome. And if you know anything about Rome at this point in history, it was the most powerful nation in the world. They had all the money, they had all the power, they could do whatever they basically wanted to do. It was known for immorality, it was known for corruption, it was known for the darkness there. People just didn't care because they had all this money and they would just do whatever that felt good. So this is a rough environment to go in there and say, hey, you got to cut it out. You got to stop doing these things. You got a God that is going to judge you for that sin, and he wants to free you from that sin. It was a rough environment to do that. But they would be in that environment, and I'm sure many times they'd have people that would be like, I don't want to change. I don't want to do anything. And so they would probably feel this way. Are we really making any difference here? I mean, seriously, are we making a difference here? Does anyone even notice our faith here? Does anybody even notice what we're doing? And so Paul took the opportunity right here as he wanted to encourage them. So that's where we're going to be in starting in Romans 1:8. He says, your faith is being reported all over the world. He's like, you're making a difference. People are hearing about you. Now, I don't know if this has ever happened to you before, but have you ever heard somebody say, I've heard about you, someone that you've never met before. I've heard about you. Normally what I do is I'm like, well, what'd you hear? Because I got some skeletons in my closet. Now, nothing I'm hiding, no secret sins. I mean, it's all out in the open, but there's things I'd rather not talk about. I'd rather things that people not know about me. But this isn't what he was saying here. He was saying, I've heard about the great things that you're doing. You're making a difference. You're doing great things out here in Rome. And I want to just take a moment to encourage you. Man, when you see someone doing good things in life, tell them about it. Encourage them. Sometimes they're at the edge of, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm tired of this. Nobody knows what I'm doing. I'm insignificant. And you may be the difference. God can use you to say, I see what you're doing, and I'm proud of you. I'm so grateful for what you're doing. I love the fact that you're living this life the right way. And it can make the difference in people's lives. That's just a side note. But take advantage of that when you get that opportunity. So Paul notices what they're doing. He hears about the things that are going on. So what's his natural reaction? Well, in verse 11, it says, I long to see you that I may impart to you some spiritual gifts to make you strong. That is that you and I may be mutually encouraged by each other's faith. Paul is the most well-known Christian in the world at this time. Now, we don't have any evidence that he really knew anybody in this Roman church. But I guarantee you this, that there were probably more than a few that got saved in some of the churches that he started, and they went to Rome. I guarantee you this, they read some of the letters he's written to these churches because they were passing these letters around. And they probably said, this is this guy named Paul that God's doing amazing things to. Let me read the letter to you. And so this would have been a huge deal. Like if you were a golfer, it'd be like Scottie Scheffler, the number one golfer in the world, calling you up and saying, hey, heard about your golf game. Let's collaborate. Let's do something together. You'd be like, oh, yeah, maybe you can get me over to Augusta. That would be incredible. I'd love to collaborate with you on that. Maybe you're a musician. And all of a sudden, Brandon Lake or Chris Tomlin sends you a message that said, I've heard about you. I've heard about the instrument you play. I've heard about your voice. I want to do a collaboration. And as a musician, you'd be like, oh, yeah, I'm all in for that, man. These are the leaders in Christian worship right now. I want to be a part of that. Maybe you're in the tech world. And Elon Musk, the trillionaire, calls you up and says, hey, I got this project. Let's do this together. What do you say? I heard about you. And you can be like, yeah, you're going to bring that $1 trillion with you? I'm all in. But this is how it was. This was a big deal for Paul to say, I want to collaborate with you. I want to get and do life with you. And I want to encourage you once again, especially here in Hawkinsville. Sometimes you can feel overlooked. I guarantee you, it's easy to feel overlooked, but we have no idea how much of a help we are to others. You have no idea the impact you're making. When your faithfulness to God in the daily grind of life is making an impact, even if you don't see it, it's making that impact. Don't quit. Don't give up. Don't stop making those impact. Don't stop saying those nice things. Don't stop going out of your way to try to help people understand who God is, to show them who God is, to serve them in unique ways. You're making a difference, even if it feels insignificant. It's amazing what God can do, even through a little boy's lunch. He can feed tens of thousands of people. So don't look at what you have as being insignificant. Give it your best. Give it to God. Do it with the best of intentions, and it's amazing what God can do, even with those small things. So because of all this, because of what Paul is seeing in this church in Rome, he feels this obligation. He says, I am obligated both to Greeks and non-Greeks, both to the wise and the foolish. And so I looked up the word obligated here. In the Greek, it means an indebtedness. He's in debt. But he didn't know anybody in Rome. As far as we know, this was just a letter to say, hey, I've heard about you. So he doesn't owe them any kind of money, any kind of debt, any kind of opportunities they gave him. He doesn't owe them that. No, his obligation is to Jesus. He knows that he had a debt to pay, a sin debt. The wages or the debt of his sin was to be paid. He was supposed to pay that for an eternity in hell. He had a debt to pay. He knew it. He could not free himself from that sin. But Jesus paid that willingly. He had this debt to Jesus. So he said, I have an obligation to go there, to preach to the people that are natives there, the ones that are Romans there, I preach to them, the ones that aren't Roman citizens, the ones that are living there that aren't Roman citizens, to the wise, to the ones that are really successful, to the ones that are doing things the right ways and trying to build things, to the ones that are a little foolish. Maybe they're not as smart. Maybe they're doing things that they shouldn't be doing. Maybe they're making mistakes. He's like, I'm in debt to all of them because I want them to understand what Jesus did for me. He says, I owe this debt to them. And we have this pastor's, when we do on Thursdays, when we get sermons together, we have this pastor's sermon prep meeting. So we're going to come this Thursday, 3 weeks from now. We're going to be talking about what that sermon is that's coming 3 weeks from now. So we just talked about this a few weeks ago, and Josh Ray, he's our campus pastor at our Pleasant Hill campus. He brought up this analogy, and I thought it worked perfect. He said, let's say you had an illness, and let's say it's cancer, and you've done everything you can to get it cured. I mean, you've gone through all the stuff. Finally, the doctors come back and say, I'm sorry, you're not going to make it. It's just, there's nothing more we can do. You're going to die from this cancer. And so your next door neighbor hears your story and comes to you and says, hey, I've created this concoction in my kitchen. It cures cancer. I'll give it to you. I want you to be cured of cancer. And your initial thought's like, are you trying to poison me, man? I don't know about this. But you're desperate. You're going to die anyways, right? I mean, all right, I'll try anything. And lo and behold, it cures your cancer. And you're thanking this guy, what can I do for you? And he said, no, you don't owe me anything. Just when somebody else has cancer, send them my way. I'll give it to them for free. I want to give this for free. And so you go and say, absolutely, that's the least I can do. And you go to work. 3 or 4 months later, somebody comes in and shares, I got a diagnosis of cancer. It's the same cancer you got. You would feel obligated, right? To send him to that person. To say, hey, I know someone that can cure this disease that's going to kill you. I know this person that can do it. I want to introduce you to this person that can do that. You would feel obligated, a debt towards that. And that's kind of what he's saying here. I feel this debt because people got a sin problem, and I want them to have a cure for the sin problem, and I know that sin problem is for Jesus, and it's Jesus, and he doesn't care who you are. He doesn't care what you've done. He wants to take care of you. And because of that, he's eager to let the world know about it. And he says it right here. That is why I'm so eager to preach the gospel. Also to you who are in Rome. I want to preach it everywhere. I'm eager, and I love that term, so eager. And I'm going to let you guys in on a secret. Come November 1st, in my car, I'm going to be playing Christmas music because I'm eager for Christmas. That first week of November, I'm going to begin, putting decorations out and decorating because I'm so eager for Christmas. And I know some of you are frowning at me and you're like, what about Thanksgiving? And I'm like, I'm very thankful I live in a country that allows me to celebrate Christmas for 2 months because that's what we do in my house. And I'm eager for that December 25th date. I can't wait for it to come. My kids can't wait for it to come. My wife can't wait for it to come. We love that. Some of you are so eager for that next vacation. And maybe you're thinking about it right now. That week before you go on vacation, you get nothing done. It's like, I can think about it as a vacation. I just got to get out of here. Now maybe you're the boss and you're like, if I go on vacation, nothing's going to get done. So I got to double up my work before I leave. I don't know where you might be. I know there's some students in here and maybe there's some teachers, people that work in the school system. You're pretty eager right now because in a week from now, it's spring break. My kids are excited about that. And when we get to April, you guys are going to be super eager for the biggest break of them all, summer vacation. I mean, it's right around the corner after that. We get really eager for those things. My kids, I took them on a cruise back in January. I found this amazing Black Friday deal. So all 7 of us went on this cruise ship. And I didn't even tell them about it because I was afraid they would say, I bought it in November and it was in January and I didn't tell them until we were in Miami. It was going out of Miami, so I was like, I didn't tell them until we got there. Like, where are we going? Are we going to Disney? I was like, Disney was like 4 hours ago. No, we're going. And I told them, and they were really excited. But if I had told them beforehand, they would ask me every day when we're going. They'd ask me, can I watch videos of the ship? Can I see this? Every day they would be so eager. And that's the feeling right here that Paul has. I'm so eager to preach the gospel to everyone, especially those in Rome. I'm eager to come and I'm eager to tell people about the good news of Jesus Christ. And we get that in the church world all the time. People get radically saved. They have a life that is just destructive and they meet Jesus. And then they're so excited about it. Like, man, I want to tell the world. They invite everybody they can to come see them get baptized as they tell the world, proclaim, I have a relationship with God through Jesus Christ. And they want to tell people, but you know what slowly usually happens? Their friends start looking at them, you think you're better than me, don't you? I don't like the way you've changed. I don't like that you don't do the same things you used to do. Sometimes family members, like, are you a part of a cult? What's going on with you? And that eagerness starts to wane a little, doesn't it? As a matter of fact, that eagerness kind of does a flip sometimes, and they're like embarrassed. I don't really want to talk about it anymore. Maybe some of you guys are in that boat right now. You have a relationship with God through Jesus Christ. But when was the last time you shared your faith in Jesus with someone? You know, was it a day ago, a week ago, a month ago, a year ago? I mean, can you even remember ever having shared your faith in Jesus Christ? Man, it's such an important thing. We've been saved from our sin, from the cancer that would have sent us to hell. And we're not eager to share that with a world that is suffering the same disease of sin in their life. It's a tough thing. And the reason why Paul was not ashamed of the gospel of Jesus, was so eager is because he was not ashamed. Right here it says in Romans 1:16, for I am not ashamed of the gospel. He's not ashamed of that gospel. He's not ashamed of the good news of Jesus Christ. Now, he's talking to a church in Rome. This church in Rome was going to feel some persecution. Imagine being a Christian in Rome right now at this point and going up and saying, hey, I want to tell you about Jesus Christ. He was God in the flesh. Now, Romans, they talked about all kinds of different gods. So maybe they're just like, yeah, tell me about another God. I could put another God in my, get good luck from him. This would be great. Tell me about this God. And so they come to this Roman person and they're just like, hey, okay, he died on a cross for your sins. Oh, whoa. The Romans like, stop right there. He died on a cross. See, the Romans were the ones who created that form of punishment, the cross. And it was meant as a capital punishment for the most heinous of crimes, the worst crimes, the vilest of criminals. Can you imagine this guy going, so you're saying this God of yours is a vile criminal? I need to worship this vile criminal that died on a cross? And then maybe the Christians say, no, you don't understand. He lived a perfect sinless life. He was innocent. He didn't deserve to be killed on that cross. And then the Romans like, whoa. So you're telling me that our government killed an innocent man? Sounds treasonous to me. Are you talking bad about Caesar? That he made a mistake? Are you actually... See, you can see why maybe these Romans were a little shy about being eager. Maybe they were a little ashamed about the gospel of Jesus Christ. But there's a reason why Paul was not ashamed of the gospel of Jesus Christ. He continues, for I'm not ashamed of the gospel of Jesus, ashamed of the gospel because it is the power of God that brings salvation to everyone who believes. See, Romans knew about power. They ruled with an iron fist. They would go into a place and they would just stomp them out. They would take all the good things from that society. They would enslave them and they would put a high taxation on them. And they would take as much as they could every year from them. They knew about power. If you had a Roman citizenship, you were better than everybody else. They had this pride. It's like, I'm better than you. I can take things from you and you can't do anything about it because I'm a citizen of Rome. I have rights that you don't have. I am better than you. And so what Paul is saying is here, I am not ashamed because I've got something more powerful than Rome. I got the power of God, the most powerful thing in the universe. And he brings salvation, not to the rich, not to those that have Roman citizenship, not to those that are super smart and not to those that act the right way. No, he brings salvation to everyone who believes. He leveled the playing field. He said, it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what you've done. It doesn't matter the mistakes you've made. It doesn't matter the money or the lack of money that you have. None of that matters. It doesn't matter if you're a guy, if you're a girl. It doesn't matter if you're a child. He brings salvation, and he has the power to bring it to everyone. And he kind of clarifies it a little bit because there could have been some misunderstandings about it too. And he says, first to the Jew, then to the Gentile. And what he's saying here is he's saying, yeah, you may remember this, and maybe some people know about Jesus. Like, yeah, that's that Jewish guy. He's like the king of the Jews, the one that brings things to the Jews, right? Is that? Yeah, he first was introduced to the world through the Jewish race, but he didn't stay with the Jews. He said, hey, I want to show this to you. And many didn't even believe him. He said, it's not just for one race. It's for the human race. It's not for the Jews. It's not, I want the Gentiles, all of us probably sitting in this room, we're recipients of that because he came through the Jewish line, but it's for everybody. And how awesome is that? The gospel of Jesus is for all people, all nations, all tribes, all tongues. And there's a whole lot of meat that I could go in on all those things and we could talk, but let me get to the end here and what he says in verse 17. He says this, for in the gospel, the righteousness of God is revealed, a righteousness that is by faith from first to last. Just as it is written, the righteous will live by faith. He's like, I want people to know you don't need to bring anything to the table to have a relationship with God. There's nothing you can do that could get you more favorable with God. Nothing. It's a free gift. You can't earn it. You can't buy it. That is why he's so eager to share the gospel. This is why he is not ashamed of it. It's a free gift. All humanity can have this gift. There's nothing we have to do to gain that salvation from our sin. And so he's coming to this church and he's like, let's go. Let's combine efforts. Let's do this thing together. Let's make this thing go. Come on, let's have it. Let's have it done. I want to partner with you. There's so much that can be done, so many lives that can be changed. But let's just be honest. You sitting in here today, some of us are ashamed of the gospel. You know how I know that? Because we're not sharing it. We're not eager to preach to people, to tell people about who Jesus is. You know, when I get ready for a sermon, it's always amazing how God gives me these amazing analogies beforehand. You see, I was on that cruise ship, and I kept thinking to myself, I need to tell these people about Jesus, these people that are serving us. Now, most of them don't speak English as a first language. Matter of fact, I didn't come across one of the people that were serving us and helping us that spoke English as a first language. They were all from different countries. And I kept thinking, how am I going to tell these people about Jesus? They're serving us. My oldest daughter, my kids, they started learning they could just dump trash anywhere on the boat. And it's like, somebody will pick it up. I'm like, oh, don't bring that home. You know, you just dump stuff. It was just so funny watching them, do all that stuff. And my oldest daughter is like, I said, pick that up. She says, no, the servant will get it. I'm like, don't call them servants. Okay, they're people, they're serving us, yeah, but don't call them servants. But anyways, I was like, how can I tell them about Jesus? And so the last day, I finally see my opportunity. The guy that's cleaning our room, we pull all our bags out. And so I see him in the hallway. I say, hey, let me ask you a question. He's like, oh, okay. I'm like, do you know who Jesus is? He's like, oh, Jesus, yeah, Jesus, yeah. I'm like, okay, I'm not sure he's getting it. I'm like, he lived a perfect sinless life. And he died on a cross for our sins, the mistakes we made, the bad things we've done. And 3 days later, he rose again. And all we have to do is believe that he did that and ask God to forgive us of our sins because of what Jesus did. And he goes, oh, yeah, Jesus. And I'm like, okay. And he had to get back to cleaning the room. So I'm walking away with my wife. And I'm like, I don't think I made any sense. That was terrible. I'm a pastor. And I can't even explain it to this guy. And she just looked at me. She said, you gave him the gospel. And again, I go back to that analogy because I always have to remember that. Hey, that little kid gave Jesus a lunch that couldn't even feed probably any adult. It was a kid's meal, and he fed. God can do something with the gospel that you delivered to him. You did the right thing. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. Well, flash forward. 6 weeks later, I'm at a field trip with my 12-year-old son. We went to the Georgia Aquarium. So they kind of put us in groups. The school did a little bit. He had another boy with him, and all of a sudden these two girls start showing up, following us from his school. My son, I guess, is a ladies' man. He gets it from his old man, I guess. But he had these girls following us. I'm like, all right, well, come on, join the group. So we go in to watch the dolphin show, and we're sitting in there. He's sitting next to me. These girls are sitting here. I have 3 open seats, and so we're there early. He's like, hey, I want to go talk to my friends. They're about 10, 15 rows back. I'm like, yeah, go ahead. A few minutes go by, and I look up, and I'm like, what you doing? And he's like, I'm sitting here. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I'm sitting here alone with these 2 girls, an open seat. And it's like, okay, well. And so the guy gets on the microphone and says, it's about 5 minutes still, says, I need you all to squeeze to the middle. And so there's this other boy. I've never met him before. He's not from our school. And he looks at me and he says, and I'm like, okay, how come sit next to this kid? I'm not lying when I say this kid had the voice from that annoying kid on the Polar Express. I'm telling you, it was identical. And he introduced himself and said, you got any kids? How many kids do you have? And I'm like, I got 5 kids. He's like, and he did the finger point. Let me ask you a question. And I'm like, all right, bro, ask me a question. He said, do you let those kids just look at tablets all day long or phones or play video games all day long? And I'm like, no, actually, they don't really have phones. And I kind of restrict that a little bit. And he goes, there's hope for the future. And I'm like, oh, my goodness, who's this 80-year-old in a 12-year-old body? And so he kept going on about this hope. And, he said, I call that brain rot. And he starts talking about all these things. And I'm like, man, this is a 12-year-old kid. And I thought in my mind, and I could feel God's Spirit saying, hey, tell him about the hope in me. Tell him about God. Tell him about how Jesus wants to rescue him. And I kept in my mind going, wow, I'll wait till he gives me a better chance. I'll wait till he talks about something. So I'll wait. And I put it off. And the show's over. We go our separate ways. Man, I immediately felt that conviction. I was ashamed to tell a 12-year-old kid, one that's talking to me. I'm not having to go talk to him. It's not creepy, And I was like, hey, little kid, come here, talk to me. I teach some free candy. No, it's not one of those things, okay? He's talking to me, and he's asking me questions, and he's talking to me, and I'm frightened to tell him about the gospel of Jesus Christ. I imagine many of you have had those type of situations in your life. Man, what is it going to take for us to have that eagerness, to be so eager to look for those opportunities and take advantage of it? Here's the thing. We don't have to convince anybody. We don't have to have a theological background where, man, I can read the Bible in Greek and I've studied this. You don't have to have any of that. You just got to tell them about Jesus and start with your story. How did Jesus change you? But so many times we're ashamed of what could possibly happen, what they could say to us, what questions they could ask. Maybe they'll find out that I'm not such a good guy like Paul. None of that matters. He just wants us to share. Jesus said, I want you to make disciples, so go tell them about me. Tell them who I am. But some of us are so ashamed of that. Maybe some of you in this room, you're ashamed because you don't really have a relationship with God. You've been going through the motions. You see, there's going to come a point in history when people are going to stand in front of God in judgment. And there's going to be some people that are going to stand in front of God and they're going to say, here's my resume. Man, I was a good guy. You should have seen me compared to the people at work. Man, I am a saint. God, you know my family. They are messed up. It's amazing that I came from that family as good as I am. There's going to be people that stand in front of God. You know what they're going to tell them? They're going to say, I preached in your name. I told people about you. I stood in a pulpit and I told people about you. And what's he going to say to all those people? Go away, I don't know you. I don't have a relationship with you. You never called out in putting your faith in Jesus Christ. You never did that. You thought you could earn your way. You thought you could be good. You thought you could tell people and all of a sudden I'd let you in. That's not how it works. You can't earn your way in. It's a free gift. You got to ask for it. And if that's you today, man, don't leave this room today not having that relationship with Jesus Christ. Don't leave here today. Maybe today the reason that you aren't excited about this is you really don't have a relationship with God and you need to fix that today. I know some of you in this room, you're introverts and you're sitting in here and you're like, man, I talk to somebody. Man, I can't stand being in a room even with this many people in it. I'm scared to death. And here's what's great about Jesus. He didn't just talk the talk. He walked the walk. Look for people you can serve. Look for people, maybe just one person that you can include in your circle and talk to them. Invite them into your circle. We're in a giant circle right here. You can invite them to come right here. If you don't know what to say, you can say, listen, I'm a part of this church. I'd love for you to come and be my guest. Come hang out with me. I'll take you out to lunch, bribe them. I mean, it works. You know, if you're out at a restaurant and we got those tip cards, if you put them down, now don't leave those tip cards, okay, as a tip. Be like, hey, come to my church, because that's a guarantee they'll never come to your church. Oh, you're not going to tip me? Cheapskate, I'm not going anywhere you are. But tip them a little bit more. Nothing wrong with bribing them. Just say, hey, I want you to come to my church, you know, and thank them for what they're doing, those type of things. But invite people into your circle. It doesn't take much but an invitation. The fact of the matter is, it doesn't matter if you're rich. It doesn't matter if you're poor, if you're smart, if you're not so smart. God wants to use you just as you are. Right where you are, you're going to let him use you. to change people's lives? Are you going to get excited for the opportunity? Are you going to be eager, looking for those opportunities? Are you going to share your faith and your story about how Jesus changed you? Or are you going to keep it to yourself? Because we've all had that cancer in our lives of sin. And someone gave us the cure for it. Are we going to selfishly hold on to that, or are we going to tell other people about it? I hope you'll choose to tell people about it. I hope you'll choose to ask God this question. God, is there someone in my life that you can send me that I can share the gospel to today, this week, this month? Send somebody my way. I almost guarantee you, if you start praying that, somebody's going to pop in your mind. An opportunity is going to come in front of you. And not only do you have to pray for that, don't be like me with that 12-year-old. Hey, give me this opportunity, God. Well, I gave you like 3 or 4 opportunities. You blew it. Take advantage of each time that comes in your life. I'm telling you, it'll be something amazing in your life. Let me pray.